Hello, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Bryon Howard. 20 years ago, I began my real estate career with Century 21, then Keller Williams, then a couple of small brokerages. And then after 15 years of being with RE/MAX, I made the big decision to move to eXp Realty. Things have never been better. This is a short podcast on why many, just like me, think this model is the future and why you may wish to be part of it. Please enjoy today's podcast. Well, folks, welcome to another edition of Why I Joined eXp. Today, I have I'm not going to say my longtime friend, but my newest friend, Lee Jennings, on the call today. Lee Jennings is an eXp Realtor out of Seattle proper, 10 minutes from downtown. Lee and I have known each other for nearly 36 hours. Welcome to the show, Lee.
Thanks for having me. This is fun to be here.
Lee, you and I met on a forum called the 11,000 Footers of the Canadian Rockies. Lee especially is a mountaineer and a big climber and a mountain guy currently living in Seattle. Previously, I think Jackson Hole, Denver. We'll get into that a little bit. And I made a post recently about a recent ski mountaineering trip that I did just on Sunday and was able to summit Snow Dome and Kitchener, 2 of the 58 11,000 footers in the Canadian Rockies. And Lee reached out to me from that post. There was a little bit of a story behind it, but we won't get into that. And I asked Lee to be on the show because Lee had joined eXp in September. And Lee, you've been selling real estate for a couple of years out of Seattle.
Right. So I've been an agent in Washington State for 2 years, a little over 2 years. I've been licensed since 2005, but I was a property manager for a long, long time. Kind of went down that rabbit hole for 12 or 13 years, owned 2 property management companies, eventually decided to pivot and just do sales. And so spring of 2019, I got my Washington license, moved to Seattle, was with a couple of big franchises. I was with Century 21 for maybe like a 6-month period. Then I was with Keller Williams here in Seattle for about a year. And then I moved to eXp last September.
And what drew you to eXp in September last year? Why did you move from, why did you make that move?
There's so many reasons, but I mean, I follow Tim Harris, who's a big mentor of mine. He's an author and a real estate coach. He has a big, a real estate coaching podcast, probably the most popular one. And so I follow him, and I had read his book, Harris Rules, and I realized that he was also involved with eXp. And so I was kind of drawn to that. And I'm a solo agent, and my goal after getting out of property management and sort of graduating from the property management woes of the world was to really be a solo agent and really see how far I could take that. And I felt like eXp was the best model for a solo agent to really just go out there and crush it, have all this technology behind you, and really just focus on maximizing your production business, which for me was like paramount. I mean, I almost feel like I'm sort of in the second phase of my career at this point. And so having all these resources to leverage is incredible.
And so are you finding that, you joined in eXp in September, you have a year or 2 under your belt of business already. And have you leveraged the tools of eXp, the technology, the platform?
I have just begun to scratch the surface. I mean, it's like I'm in the Libertas Group, which is Tim's group at eXp. So I get coaching from Sean Kokoska, Tim Harris, all these guys who are coaching it and training at a really high level. And so I'm surrounded by people who are in production who are just crushing it. And so I'm just now beginning to, I think, benefit from just being around them and being in that environment. There's so much more runway out there. That's the exciting part for me, is I know my production business over the next 24 months is going to explode. And I know my agent attraction efforts are already doing that. So it's just a really, it's pretty exciting time right now.
Interesting. So and you mentioned how, getting into it, you came to eXp more, it seemed like influenced by people you were following and mentors. And
Yes.
and join them, why not kind of thing, that eXp kind of bandwagon. But it seems since September, you've realized about this whole other side of the business, that we call it eXp attraction,
Right.
and revenue share. when did you click into, and tell us a little bit about when you realized that, hey, not only do I have to do sales or can I do sales, but there's this other opportunity of revenue source. When did that hit you? Was it September last year or was it more recent?
It was actually even before September. It was during the summer. I mean, I saw the
Mhm.
opportunity pretty quickly, and I was like, and I started talking. I mean, that's the thing about EXP that's so crazy is I reached out to some people at EXP through like social media channels who I didn't even personally know. And I was like, hey, I see some of these videos you're doing. I see how well you're doing. Can you just let me look under the hood just a teeny bit? And every response I got was like amazing. I mean, it was just glowing. And and we're talking about like people who've been at EXP for a long, long time and have really large revenue share groups who I was like, oh, they probably won't even give me the time of day. Well, it was quite the opposite. They all were like willing to share and they were excited to tell me about it. And so very early on, I was like, there is really something to this. This could be a life-changing thing. And I was talking to friends about it. And like, I had some, of course, there's people who are skeptical or what have you, but people who I talked to who really understood the model and were involved in it, like they all raved about it. So I was like, okay, this has got to be something huge.
So you joined DXP not only for the production, but you thought, hey, I have an opportunity to attract agents as well and participate in revenue share.
Completely. Yeah. And I mean, Tim says it best. I mean, his number one goal in real estate is to be of service to agents. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, I want to align with somebody who thinks that way because I feel the exact same way. Like the only thing that I want to do more than like produce a lot is to help people. And the best way that I can help people is by showing them this model and helping them become successful.
I did many, many years of real estate coaching. Like I'm talking since 2006. And I was taught, whenever you bring on an agent, you only teach them like how to change the front wheel of the passenger side of the car. Like
Right.
You just don't teach them everything. Like you hold back so much. And EXP is putting that whole premise on its head because you want agents that work with you to be successful.
Right. And like in my group, like in the Libertas Group, I have people on a daily basis who are like pouring into me, who are like bending over backwards, trying to make every possible effort to like help me in my production business and agent attraction. It's like the best of all possible worlds. People always tell me, well, like ask me, is Exp right for a new agent? Because they're like, it's bewildering and it's this cloud-based thing. And I'm like, it is absolutely the perfect place to be a brand new agent. And I talk to people all the time who are younger than I am, who are like in their early 20s and they're newly licensed and they're looking at EXP. And I'm like, I wish I was you because you are going to benefit from this more than anyone else on the planet because you have so much runway around agent attraction and growing your revenue share group and helping people. Like in the next 5 years, you will have helped so many people change their lives, and their businesses. And I mean, it's like mind blowing.
It's awesome. It's awesome. This is exciting. And so some of the things that you found as an agent that's just been in the business for 2 years, but you have aligned yourself with a senior partner, senior group that has an awful lot to offer, obviously. And so that makes it easy for you to attract others. And then you also come back, you mentioned before we hit record on this, you're a middle school teacher, you're a climber, you're an outdoor guy. How are you finding, but then you were in property management for years. That's pretty complicated. Tim, you and I have a similar interest in the mountains. How do you manage your love of the mountains with being in the real estate business? How are you able to do that?
I mean, I've definitely had to bring on a little bit of leverage. Like I have somebody who helps me like TC my files now, and somebody who actually is licensed who can help me, who can help fill in like if I need to get out and climb a mountain, which does happen from time to time, or pack raft a river or any of the other outdoor pursuits that I do. You mentioned looking at my Facebook page, you probably got a little taste of all the things that I enjoy doing, but there's outdoorsy and then there's me. So I'm like on a different level, and a lot of my friends think I'm insane, but that's been my passion ever since I was a kid. And it's something that really, it just fits so well with this because you have so much support. You have so many people who are willing to help you.
So that's awesome. And so you've mentioned that you had a couple of property management companies, one in Denver, one in Jackson Hole, and up to 1,100 doors. Like that's a lot. Like, and then you sold it. And I think that like those property management type businesses have been really under demand the past couple of years. Aren't you rich after selling 1,100 doors?
I mean, I had a partner on the Denver company, or a couple partners who I'm still friends with. And so now, I mean, it was great. And I did get an earnout, so I get paid over time. And then I own the Jackson business by myself. And that was like a whole different animal and a whole different, and it was a different property type. It was a little bit, different overall, but it was funny. I mean, if you do property management for that amount of time, and you do it at the volume level that I was doing it at, it's a rare person that I think doesn't just get worn down by the business. It's a great business. There's some great people in it, but it's a very, very challenging business. I was dealing with mold and floods and clogged toilets and problem tenants and evictions. And I mean, you name it. And if you have that many doors, at any given time, there are probably 10 to 15 fires that you're putting out. And I just got tired of playing whack-a-mole, and I got really good at it. And I had employees who worked for me, and I even had a partner in the Denver company, and we did a great job for people. And it was lucrative, like, over the years. But when I said goodbye to it, I pivoted, and I really don't miss it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Good for you. And on that kind of note, you've been with eXp for since September. I think of it as a short time, but that's kind of showing my age, because, the more I listen to these podcasts and stuff, like, you ask your guest, and when did you start? Well, they say something like, oh, we started way back, and let me think. And they'll say something like 2018. To me, 2018 was yesterday.
Right.
But how has eXp changed your life, your business, your happiness?
I mean, it's kind of like hard to describe, but it's just, as an agent in this business, we're only as good as our last deal. And eXp changes all that. It turns it on its head, because I am recruiting and doing agent attraction. I'm bringing people into the organization who are also succeeding at a high level, and then in helping them succeed, I help myself as well. That's long-term over time. That's like residual income over time. So it's like, it's completely changed the traditional model on its head. And I always want to be in production because I just love the business. I know that I'll probably be doing deals till I'm 90 years old, whatever. But there's this whole other realm out there of coaching, teaching, training, mentoring agents, helping them succeed, that is like new to me. And the best part is like, even as a newer agent to eXp, I can be involved on that level and take it as far as I want to go with it.
It's fun, isn't it? It feels good. It's like you're sharing and giving back.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful. Yeah.
And I mean, and honestly, I mean, I was at a RE/MAX office way back in like 2005 and 6, pre-crash. So I was the assistant to a top producing agent in Denver back in 2005 and 2006. And I watched what he was doing, and he's been a RE/MAX agent for 20 years almost. And he's been successful. He's doing 60 plus deals a year. And really, like, other than that transactional income, he doesn't have anything to show for it. So it's like, he's made a lot of money, but he doesn't have, like a residual income. He hasn't had the opportunity to earn stock or equity in the company. And so there's all these things that you put them all together, and you're like, it's crazy. Like, I'm just glad that someone finally thought of it in the industry, because it was so badly needed. I mean, it's just crazy. Like, Tim actually did a podcast with Grant Wise, who's a big Facebook ads guru person, who I also know. And that podcast, he really kind of nailed how, especially for newer agents go into these big offices and sign up, and they get sold this bill of goods, and it's like a bait and switch. And they don't really learn what they need to learn. And they end up spending all this money on the wrong things, and they end up not netting any income, and they end up, as the saying goes, 87% of all agents fail within 24 months. And it's like, the industry was, I mean, it was so needed. It was so needed.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's great. And what's easy for you these days? And what's exciting that we should know about? Anything coming up in Lee's life?
Boy, gosh, I always, as well, and as my friends know, I'm always plotting and scheming far-flung outdoor adventures around the world. So that's kind of a given. But now with agent attraction, like, I'm in this position where I can, those things can become probably more of a reality now, because I'm building residual income, and I'm in a position where if I want to do those things, like, everything, isn't put on hold. And then as far as just my own, personal production business, it's like after last year, I feel like I graduated to like this new level. And I feel like I have all the tools now to succeed at the highest level, which took some doing. 2019 was a really painful year for me. 2020 was amazing. It was like this huge growth period. 2021 and beyond, I'm like stoked because I feel like I have all the tools.
Some
Yeah.
great. And so at the start of this call, before I hit record, I talked about convincing you to join myself and my good friend and fellow eXp agent, Ben Sweet, on Denali.
You won't have to do much convincing. I can tell you that.
Lee, you've done Denali 2003, 2011, 2016. And Ben Sweet invited me to go yesterday. And we had the discussion about, like, I'm not really the kind of guy who wanted to do a guided tour. I want to learn the skills and get there myself. Yeah. Tell us about Denali.
So, you know, my first big mountain was Mount Logan in 2002. And then I was interested in climbing Denali because it's just, you know, it's a very notable peak. And it's like, I mean, the Alaska Range in general is just an absolutely incredible place. If you've never been, it's worth going in any way, shape, or form. It can seem kind of daunting because it's this really long trip, and you really, if you're going to go on a private trip, then you need to know people who you feel pretty comfortable with, because you're looking out for each other, and you want to make sure that, you know, people have the skills, and it's hard to find people who are interested in suffering that much, because it's some of the coldest temperatures in the world and crazy weather and all these other things. So I was interested in going, and I joined a group going there back in 2003. And then I joined another group actually in 2011. 2011 was a crazy year on Denali. If you're on the peak that year, there was a lot of high wind and blue ice on the mountain. People were taking gigantic falls on the summit day. 5 people were killed on the peak while I was there, 2 of whom I actually met. So it was a crazy, crazy season. We actually weren't able to summit because the weather was pretty bad. We went up to 17. The high camp, and sat for about a week and just got absolutely pounded. Couldn't even think about leaving the tent. You know, we never even thought about going to the summit. I mean, it was a non-starter. And so we ended up bailing, and we just got beat up. And then 2016, I went back, and I actually went back with a good friend of mine, and it was just 2 of us, which if you're gonna climb Denali and it's just a team of 2, you really want to think over who you're going with, because you have to make sure that that person, their crevasse rescue and glacier travel skills are completely dialed, because if one of you goes in, it's a big problem. So we ended up going, and 7 or 8 days into the trip, he came down with a really bad respiratory infection at 14,000 feet and hung around for a while, tried to fight it off, wasn't able to fight it off, ended up descending solo, flying out. So now I'm at 14,000 feet. And I can't remember why this happened, but he took our tent with us. And then the same day that he left, my stove broke. So I've got no tent and no stove, and I'm at 14,000 feet on Denali, and I'm by myself. All I have is a lot of fuel, because we had a lot of fuel with us, and he didn't take any with him because he was like, I'll just give it all to you, and plenty of food. So I ended up trading fuel for the use of a stove and a tent, at least, you know, some nights. And then I met 2 other people who are now are good friends of mine now, and we ended up, you know, teaming up and summiting anyway.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it was a crazy, crazy trip, and like really, really lucky. But it's an amazing experience. It's really all it is it's a 3-week long eating and drinking contest, because whoever eats the most and you know, drinks the most feels the best, and that's the key to summiting.
Wow, interesting. Well, it's been 5 years since you've been there, and it sounds like you go about every, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 years. So it's almost time again.
It is. And I've been talking to friends recently about going back, and nobody ever has to twist my arm to go back there.
What's the perfect group size? Like your small group, in your opinion?
I think a perfect group size on that peak is probably 3 or 4. You know, a bigger than that, then you're inevitably somebody's going to get sick, or you're going to have more people, sometimes means more issues. Smaller, like just a group of 2, then you're having to really worry about your crevasse rescue skills. I mean, I went with my buddy back then in a 2-person group because I felt really comfortable with him. We had done a lot together, so I felt like if one of us went in, we were solid, but that's pretty rare. I think 3 or 4 is really kind of ideal.
Good. Lee, what are some of your future goals?
So probably my biggest goal is to hit 1 million GCI in a year. I haven't done that yet. I mean, I did Last year I did about 265 in gross commissions last year. And that was not a big number of deals. I think I did 16 or 17 deals last year total. I mean, my market's a high-end market. My average price point here is about 800,000. So, that's my goal. My other goal is to grow my organization now. I mean, I've seen like all the possibilities that are out there. I'm like, there's absolutely no reason why I can't grow to like more than 500 people or more, because it's just, I see people doing it and I see people doing it at a high level. And I'm like, I can totally do that.
That's awesome. How are you getting your business? Like your, let's say last 12 months, let's say it was 20 deals or 16 or whatever it was. Where does that business come from? Is it your sphere? Who is it?
No. So I prospect religiously 5 days a week. I'm on the phone 8 to 11, every morning. All of those deals are for sale by owner, expired, absentee owner, for rent by owner, circle prospecting. My niche, which is multi-unit properties. I love to sell duplex, triplex, fourplex, and then some referral partners and past client. But 99.9% of my business is raw outbound prospecting, which is my favorite part of the business.
Oh my God, I am shocked. Okay, why am I shocked? I'm shocked in many ways because, well, that's the background I come from is, the prospecting. But you're in Seattle, like this high-tech area. Aren't you guys like Facebook ads or something? I thought that's what you're going to tell me.
I mean, it's funny. I've done Facebook ads and I've used them for like my listings, like just selling my listings and stuff. But when it comes to acquiring new business, I want to be talking to and face-to-face with people who own the properties that I want to be listing. And that is really, that's all I think about all day, every day. All I think about is I'm either prospecting or I'm on an appointment. And I don't want to think about anything else ever. And I'm trying to delegate or eliminate anything that doesn't involve those two things.
That's awesome.
So that's really what it comes down to for me.
For years, when I was working at my highest level, I did 3 things only: prospect, present, and negotiate. That was it.
There you go.
Everything else was delegated. I'm a little bit more all over the place right now, but we're going to get back to those 3 things. How do people reach out to you, Lee? What's the best way to contact you?
So I would say either text me or call me. I'm at 206-419-8303. Or you can find me on Instagram. I am 8000M Realtor, 8,000 meter Realtor.
Oh, nice.
And you'll see,
I'm writing that down.
You'll see some shots of my production business. You'll also see a few mountain shots. I have some amazing photos from like some of the trips that I've done: Pakistan, Alaska, the Yukon, South America, all over the world. So I just love talking mountaineering.
That's awesome. Lee, give me that phone number once again. I'm going to write it down and say it a little slow, so anyone that's out there.
Yeah, it's my cell is 206-419-8303.
419.
Yep, 8303.
8303. I'm going to say that one more time. It's 206-419-8303.
Yep.
It's awesome. Do you have any ask for our listeners?
Boy, gosh, that's a good question. Gosh, that's a tough one. I would say, I guess my only ask is this, and I think this is across the board when you're talking about eXp as a brokerage, is try to be open-minded. That's one thing that I'm noticing. What I'm doing right now is I'm talking to a lot of agents who are with other brokerages who are eXp curious. They are wanting to learn more about it. They're skeptical, they're concerned. And the reasons a lot of the objections they're giving me for why they aren't joining eXp, it's like shocking to me. I'm like, I really like my broker. I could never do that to him. And I think to myself, do you like your broker enough to never retire? Because that's how much you're gonna have to like him. Do you like your broker enough as to where you are going to miss out on probably the greatest opportunity in our industry in the last 15 years. That's an awfully big like. So just really think that open. And it's funny, one of my friends, a coach and trainer in Libertas, his name is Eric Orland. He's recruiting at a really high level. He's out of Miami. And that's one of his questions in his call to action for people is, are you open-minded? And that's all that I ask people is just be open-minded when you're evaluating this model, because and I talk to people all the time like you, where it's like it took you a year to join or 2 years to join, or I've been talking Yeah, see, there you go. And part of it was they either weren't looking at it, specifically enough, or they looked at it and they were just kind of assuming the worst. And I'm like, you've just got to be open-minded, because the amount of opportunity here it's really incredible.
That's awesome. Lee, when are we going to meet on a mountain?
Hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. I'm always open to go climbing. So in fact, we were talking about doing the Emmons up on Rainier in the next few weeks. So if that
really
at all, yeah, if you want to do that, we're going to do that soon, I think.
I'm going to keep that in the little bucket here, and I may be in touch about it.
It's in good shape right now, but it's probably only going to be in good shape for the next maybe month or so.
Well, that's a lot of time, but I don't know if I can actually make it being Canadian. I think if I leave here, I have to quarantine for 2 weeks or something.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
We're still in COVID. So
yeah, I can't wait for Canada to open back up, only because, okay, now I'm going to shock you here. I'm going to really shock you. My favorite place in all of Canada is Manitoba.
Oh, you are shocking me.
It's I know I'm very much in the minority when I say that. It's probably the first time you've ever heard someone say that. But
ever. I heard people liked Manitoba, and I was surprised.
It's my favorite place in all of Canada. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I need to hear.
Yeah. So one of my other passions is canoeing in the wilderness. And it's probably the best place to do that in the world. And I'm really hoping that Canada opens again by this fall, because September is the best time to go to Manitoba.
It's incredible. So you go to Manitoba to canoe?
Yes, I will go there and I will canoe for 2+ weeks at a time. Either get flown in on a float plane into a remote lake, or I will paddle in off of somewhere roadside, and I'll do remote rivers. It's so peaceful and beautiful, and it's most people will probably never go there, but it's just an incredible spot, and probably my favorite place in Canada. And I have an outfitter up there who I'm in touch with, and I keep pinging him hey, when are they going to let us back in?
Lee, you are so many contrasts. Property manager with 1,100 plus doors, mountaineer, real estate sales guy, and mentor teacher in attraction business, and wilderness canoer. You do a lot of things. You are kind of a curious and unusual fellow.
I often say I am never bored. This isn't a dress rehearsal, as I often like to say.
That's awesome. Well, what a pleasure, Lee. I do look forward to meeting you in person on a wilderness adventure. I'm sure we will.
Sounds good.
Well, until then, BH and Lee over and out.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Boom. Thank you for listening today. For more information on eXp Realty and to learn how to align with myself, Bryon Howard at eXp Realty, visit partnerwithhoward.com. That's partner, PARTNER, with WITH, Howard, HOWARD.com. Thanks for listening.